So, in 1978, you were appointed Solicitor General of the Northern Territory.
Yeah.
That was an important appointment and an important stage of your career. And who actually made the appointment? Who was the Chief Minister at the time?
Paul Everingham. And I met him in Alice Springs, of course. He practiced there too. And the appointment came about like this. We were in the Darwin Sailing Club drinking, and he said in his way, "What about being Solicitor General?" I said, "All right."
That is the most low-key approach I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I liked about the place. That was in late 77, I think. Self-government came at when was it? The 1st of July, 78. So we had to get things ready for it, and so I really took over the functions, or part of the functions, of the Commonwealth Crown Law Officer, who had an office up there, and we started the Department of Law, known to some as the Veggie Patch. I remember.
The Veggie Patch?
Mm.
Why?
Well, when we started off, we didn't have terribly high quality assistance, but that changed. I spent a great deal of time in Canberra or in the air and in negotiations with the Commonwealth about the Self-Government Act. There was a continuing fight about what powers would be entrusted to the Northern Territory Executive and what legislative powers would be given to the Northern Territory Parliament. And the Commonwealth, the people we dealt with, insisted on an enumeration of powers beyond which the Territory would be powerless. That caused difficulties because it was not always clear whether something fell within an enumerated power or not. And I think now the Act has been changed so it's more in line with the sort of constitutional arrangements in that the Territory is empowered to do those things which are not done by the Commonwealth, just to put it rather inelegantly. But
I imagine that you would have had more reason than most in the same position to have developed and exercised a big interest in matters constitutional. You had literally the necessity of experience that was being brought to bear at the time, more than perhaps what might have been for someone else of slightly more academic interest in constitutional questions of that kind.
yeah, I did have some, there are a couple of very good lawyers that came over to the Department of Law who helped me a lot. I remember I used to consult a professor called Darrell Lum at Brisbane University, Professor of Law. And I also consulted Professor Saw in Canberra.
He wrote about a lot of federation matters.
Yeah. I remember he said, whatever you do, somehow get the Crown in the equation. So we do have a Crown in right of the Northern Territory. He said it'll give you some parity with the states. There were long-running negotiations about uranium, who was going to own that, Aboriginal affairs, who was going to be responsible for them, Aboriginal land, and this was all around the time of or a bit after the Aboriginal Land Rights Northern Territory Act. I think that was passed in 1976. There are all sorts of difficulties. Existing Aboriginal areas such as Arnhem Land and parts of the Daly River, I think under the Act automatically were vested in trustees for the land councils, and the Territory had the task of issuing titles, and the bureaucrats in Canberra said you'll have to identify roads if you want them excluded, public roads, instead of saying we'll exclude public roads generally and over the years you can identify them, which is what finally happened. But they expected us to identify every road we wanted to preserve. And, it's not always easy to determine what is a road and how long it's been a road and whether it's a public road or a private road. But finally the minister, who was Fred Chaney, saw sense and said we'll do it the other way. They were interesting days, I must say.
Can you tell us maybe a bit about some of the contemporaries you were working with during that time who were working on Aboriginal legal aid?
Jeff Eames, who went to the bench in South Australia, in Victoria.
And who I have a lovely picture of as a young man protesting the hanging of Ronald Ryan, a famous newspaper photo. Have you seen that photo?
Yeah. Peter Faris, I think, was probably the first. And then there was Jeff Eames and David Parsons. And later there was O'Shane.
Pat O'Shane.
Pat O'Shane.
Did you work with Paul Coe?
Not there. I did in Sydney, actually. I did a trial with Paul. I didn't ever see him in the Northern Territory.
Did you deal with Philip Toyne?
In opposition, see, that was after 78. The land councils laid claim to enormous tracts of the Northern Territory, and I was instructed by the government to oppose them all, make them prove traditional ownership. And I think Philip Toyne was on the other side in a number of those.
And how was he as an opponent?
Hmm?
What was he like as an opponent?
Dogged. Those claims occupied an enormous amount of time and effort. Most of them succeeded, not all of them. I think one thing of which I am glad is that I think was instrumental in creating an Aboriginal national park on the Coburg Peninsula. I drafted the I did the instructions to the drafts person to prepare the Act, which I think is still in force, and that provided for a board, the majority of which were black. I don't know how well it's working, but it covered most of the Coburg Peninsula, which was then a wildlife sanctuary.
Do you know if it served as a model for other similar setups?
Don't know. I haven't heard of any others.
If it's still in existence, it must have worked singularly well.
Yeah. It was a particularly beautiful area, right on the sea, with prolific wildlife and a lot of Aboriginal interest in it. But I really don't know. I haven't been there for many years.